Good evening, everyone. Happy Sabbath. It's so wonderful to be with you guys and to see some of your faces and also to see those that have joined. I can't remember the last time I've been to Luton. It's been a very long time. I came ages ago to the church with my parents. But it's wonderful to be here online with you guys to join you for this service. And thank you for asking me to join you. It's really an honor. Just before I start, I would like to pray and then we'll get started. Father in heaven, Lord, thank you so much for this day. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to come together, to fellowship together, to learn from you, Lord. And Lord, I pray that you will send your Holy Spirit to speak through me so that we may hear what you have to teach us and help us, Lord. Help us to apply what you have taught us as well. In your name I pray. Amen. So the title I have chosen is You Are Not Alone. You are not alone. I'd like to start by reading two verses. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. If you want to turn there with me, you can. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. And 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do. Two men were taking a trip on their boats, two separate boats, and they're taking this trip, and they were trying to reach this gorgeous, beautiful island. This island had so many exotic fruits. I don't know, maybe some people, if you want to unmute and tell me some of the fruits maybe that they were hoping to see and taste, if you would like to unmute and tell me what, maybe for me, it would have to be mango. Mango would have to be on the island for me to be traveling on a boat anywhere. I'm seeing Tia nodding. Yes, she agrees. Any other fruits that maybe I said your fruit. I'm sorry. Banana. What? Okay, interesting. Banana would have to be there for Brother Errol. Any other fruits that would have? Say that again.
Jackfruit.
Oh, jackfruit. Yes, jackfruit. So these maybe are some of the fruits that they were hoping to see and taste and experience, and gorgeous animals. Oh, lychee. Yes, definitely that too. One of the men was slightly ahead on his journey, and this island was in view now. But suddenly he hit some turbulence in the water. The other man couldn't see far enough to see what was going on. And all of a sudden, the man that hit the turbulence was thrown overboard. Now, he was a good swimmer, but there's only so long that you can fight against the waves. And after some time, his body began to weaken. The man behind him is looking to see where this other sailor is, because he had completely lost view of the boat and was becoming concerned. The man in the water cries out, "Lord, help me, save me." And his expectation was for the waves to die down, for he knew that God is the master of the sea. But instead, he feels someone grab him just under his arms. And the other man is now taking him and bringing him to his boat. And they were able to complete the journey together. I spent about 6 months volunteering at a school in the Philippines. This was between the years of 2017 and 2018. And in March 2018, I'd just come back. Now, the experience was amazing. If any of you have an opportunity to go to the Philippines, I would recommend that you go. It's a beautiful place. And I enjoyed this film. Do you know what? It was like this cloud nine. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. You're on top of the world, nothing can bring me down. That's exactly how I felt. And I came back and I was so happy. And I had all these ideas in my head. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna share this, my testimony, and all these wonderful thoughts and plans. And I'm sure you can relate to that. You have this cloud nine feeling and feeling on top of the world, and you're thinking of all the wonderful things that you were planning to do for God. So unbelievably happy and content, having the best time of your life. Like nothing seems to be going wrong. But what happens when things change? When the ride isn't as smooth or as peaceful as it was before? So I made the decision to go to university after I'd spent my time in the Philippines. And I don't know how many of you are studying, or maybe, well, I'm sure I know some people on the screen, and I know they've studied before, and studying is hard. Things had started to pile up. And there was pressures at university. If your parents are like mine, maintaining grades, making new friends. I had never lived with anybody else except my family. And so moving in with other people was an interesting experience. And there was so much that I was grappling with and getting adjusted to. And some of these things made the experience very difficult. And honestly, I was struggling. There was this struggle between who I felt that I was and who I actually wanted to be. Can I ask someone to read Romans chapter 7, verse 19? Romans chapter 7, verse 19.
I'll read Romans chapter 7, verse 19. For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do.
And this was my very experience. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. For the good that I would, I do not. But the evil which I would not, that I do. University, school, work is not an easy place to be, especially for a Christian. You spend your time trying to figure out who you are. What will I do and what won't I do? And I had done things that I had never thought I would do. And I was feeling overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame. This actually then led to a period of depression. And depression is not something that I think we talk about enough. I think sometimes we think because we're Christians, somehow we're immune to these experiences, but there are people in church experiencing these things. And during this time of depression, I went to camp meeting and I was invited by a friend of mine. She'd written this song and she'd invited me and her sister to sing it with her. And we were spending each night practicing and practicing and practicing. It was rather long. And the day finally came for us to share the song. And we'd be sharing it in the evening. So her sister decided to go and rest before we would sing. And the time was approaching. And her sister came to my mind prior. I was thinking, well, she should be here with us. But we carried on with our business and we carried on figuring out what we were going to do, where we were going to sit. So consumed with my own stuff, is the musician there? How does my hair look? The general things that we think are important, that I wasn't keeping an eye out to see where she was. And so the time now comes for us to sing, and we head up on stage without our third singer. I'm going to offer an alternative situation to the story I mentioned before. Imagine if the other sailor in that story was like me. If he at no point was looking out to see how the other sailor was getting on. If he was too busy taking photos and selfies maybe of the scenery to notice the man drowning ahead. How often do we get consumed with life and all that we're doing that we forget others along the way? I understand life is busy, the nature of life. You get consumed with all the things that are on your to-do list. In the home, outside home, and sometimes our homes, our churches can become this in and out situation where you come in and then you leave. And not a lot of time is spent connecting. We're spending time in each other's presence, but we're not actually present. And this kind of reminds me of the story of the Good Samaritan, those that pass the injured man on the side of the road, too occupied with their own plans and prejudices to help. But something important to remember in all of this is that those that are in need of our help may not present as an injured person on the side of the road. Not all pain and injury is visible. Especially in the climate that we're living in today, with the pandemic that just happened, things are still going on, and there's war, like we were talking about wars. People are struggling today. I just did a mental health course not that long ago, and the statistics were horrifying of people that struggle with depression and anxiety. Mental health problems are on the rise, and many people are struggling with invisible illnesses. So back to camp meeting 2018. Later that evening, emotions were high. We were dealing with the disappointment from earlier, and the three of us then decided to talk about all that had happened. As I previously mentioned, I was at that time going through a period of depression. But I was the type of person that would put on a brave face, you know, not wanting to appear as what I thought of was as weak. And I was feeling impressed to share what I was going through with them, but I was scared. I wonder how many of you have yourself experienced or are experiencing depression and its effects. It's not, again, like I said, talked about much in church, but not talking about it doesn't make it disappear. We fear being judged, so it's easier to just pretend. I'm going to offer another alternative situation, like to the story that I mentioned before. Imagine if the man in our story at the start was like this. Imagine if, as he saw the man swimming towards him to come and save him, he became so embarrassed that he no longer had the strength to swim, that he tried to pretend that everything was okay, that he actually wasn't drowning. Imagine if he had tried to swim away. Of course, we are thinking, why would you do that? The person is here to help you. Why would you reject their help? But do you know how often we do that? Not only with each other, but with God. He has his arms outstretched, so desperate to help us out of our situation, but we turn away and we shut him out. Maybe you're overwhelmed with life. Family life is challenging. Maybe it's difficulties at work, or you're just having a hard time staying on top of your schoolwork and you feel like you're crumbling under the pressure of expectations. Maybe that situation for you is grief. You're overcome with the feeling of loss, and due to slight resentment for God allowing that thing or that person to be taken from you, you shut him out. Maybe it's a physical or a mental illness, something you'd hoped to have received healing from by now, but it just hasn't happened. Maybe it's an addiction, a sin that you are drowning in, but because of shame, you won't turn to God. You've accepted the lie that you will be met with his wrath, or that what you have done is just too much this time. Thinking that there's something that you need to do before you can come and talk to him. During my time of depression, I had succumbed to the lie that I was alone. In some of our darkest times, the devil would have us believe that we are alone, that no one can understand, that even God has left us. But as I began to share what I had been going through with my friends, they began to share with me. I was not alone in my struggles at all. We had gone through similar things. We had been suffering alone in silence, keeping all our struggles a secret in order to maintain a certain image, thinking that we would be burdening each other with our problems. But in fact, we actually needed each other and had been missing out on opportunities for God to use us to uplift and encourage each other. I really need you to listen to this. There is power in vulnerability. Men and boys, there is power in vulnerability. Women and girls, there is power in vulnerability. Being willing to be honest about who you truly are, how you really feel, and what you are going through is powerful. Not everyone is the right person to do that with, but pray earnestly for God to reveal to you the people that you can trust and be vulnerable with. Not everyone has family that they can do that with. But I'm telling you now, there are people out there, and I am testimony to that fact. Can I ask someone to read 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11 again? 1 Thessalonians 5:11.
1 Thessalonians 5:11. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do.
Thank you. Here we are being directly instructed to encourage and console each other, to build each other up. Lots of people are feeling lonely and isolated. And there is a reason why God tells us not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye see the day approaching. We need community. We need each other so much more. But do you know what the biggest encouragement for me is? That I am not alone, that I am never alone because God is with me. But not only that, I am known. God knows me. The me that others don't see, the real me, and that I am understood, fully and completely understood by God. You are fully and completely known and understood by God. In Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, for we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, like as we are, yet without sin. This double negative is used to tell us that we have a high priest, Jesus, who is touched with the feeling of our infirmities. He feels what we feel, he understands us, and he understands all of our struggles, all of them. Yes, that thing that you're thinking about right now that you're ashamed of, he understands it because he was also tempted. That pain that you feel, he is touched with too. We've all heard of God's omnipresence. What does this mean? When we use the word omnipresence to describe God, what does that mean? He's everywhere, thank you. Always present, everywhere at the same time. But when you think of being present somewhere, is it to just be there, or does it have a deeper meaning? I was listening to someone explain this, and it's like God is not just with me, I have all of his attention all the time. God is not just with you, you have all of his attention all the time. He's never distracted. He's never unavailable. He's never too busy. He never turns away because he's heard it all before. I am not alone. You are not alone because he is always with you. I'd like to read Psalms chapter 139, 1 to 18, one of my favorite scriptures. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thoughts afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and you are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it all together. You have hedged me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, But the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest part of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. You are not alone. Not only can God provide you with people that can support you, that can uplift you, that can pray for you, that can pray with you, that can share with you and understand you, but he himself is the uplifters of all uplifters. He yearns to speak to you. He understands you, and he has never left and is always with you. Thank you.